Take 15.
I'm shaking out the car.
Oh, no.
Hey guys, Burger here with Burger's Garage. I thought I'd make a video for you today to educate you and let you learn more about the ins and outs of certain cars. Today we have a C63. In this case, I'll show you how to change the rear brake pads and the brake discs. This will hopefully help you in the future and teach you how to do a lot more of the mechanical aspects of cars yourself, rather than giving it to a garage who most of the time tend to rip you off. So I hope you enjoyed. Alright, so I thought I'd do a quick video and show you guys how to change your front and rear brake pads and potentially even the discs, because the current condition of them, as you can see, isn't the best. Definitely have a lot of ridges in there, and these haven't been skimmed in a long time. The backs, I guess, the rear ones I can skim. The front ones, however, are most certainly shot. As you can see, even there's a couple of heat spots where it's probably worn through to the air pockets. So the front ones definitely have to be changed, along with the pads. The rear ones I will probably just get skimmed and then put some new pads on. I got the Brembo ones rather than the original because I read online that these actually work better. And do make sure that you get the sensors along with it, which basically tell you that the brake pads need to be replaced. Right, first up on the list is to crack all 5 lug nuts on both sides before jacking up the car. C63 actually has 17mm lug nuts, so just get that with a long extension, again while the car is still on the floor in park with the handbrake on, so that it just doesn't roll anywhere. Right, once all lug nuts are cracked loose, we find the lifting point, which would be this sort of rubber bushing over here, and place your craft jack right underneath it, and make sure that you are directly on it. Make sure that you don't touch any of the body panels, just to ensure that it's all working. Right, car's up in the air now. So these are the jack points that I was speaking of. And then some find it difficult to find a place for the jack stands because if you look around the side, there's actually no other location where you can place the jack stands. So some people have said that they jack the whole car up from the differential, which I'm not a fan of, because those cooling fins, as you can see, some of them are already bent, are not the strongest. So what I do is basically on the subframe lower control arm bracket, which is very solid. That's where I basically put the jack stands to make sure that the car is properly secured when we take the tires off. Okay, so next step is to basically remove the brake pads, but first up we have to push back those pistons back into the caliper, so that when you install the new thicker Meteor brake pads, that they'll have space to go in. Otherwise, it'll be quite the nightmare pushing those pistons back into the caliper. So yeah, I'm gonna use a flathead screwdriver and make sure that it doesn't
slip off and anything else. So, as you can see, sometimes they need a bit more force. Depends honestly when the last time was that the brake pads had been changed. I guess we'll switch to Phillips so that can actually go completely into the hole and follow the pin through. There we go, there's one. And two. Right, so these pins then pop out the back. As you can see, there's no retainers on them or anything, they've just been pressed in. See if we can push them out. There we go. Sometimes require a bit more force, but should definitely not completely force them out.
As you can see on the camera, but on the end is a sort of spring washer, which basically, once compressed, pushes out into the caliper, and that's what stops it from slipping out. So there's no sort of retainer clip in the back that you have to unbolt or remove. It's just basically held in with that. So we got one out. So next up, we will unclip the basically wear sensor, which sends a signal to the front of the car informing you, the driver, that the brake pads have worn out past the specified limit and that they require changing. There is a small, see if I can place it for you. There's a small plastic retainer clip that you just have to lift up, and then this just pulls out like so, and then that's attached to the rear brake pad, so that's all we need to do. Next up, okay, so before just basically levering these brake pads out, what we need to do is, like I explained before, is these pistons you can see in there are basically what apply pressure to the brake pad when you apply the brake pedal. And as you'll be installing new brake pads, which will be a lot thicker, we're gonna have to compress these by, I know it's not the best method, but by placing a screwdriver between the disc and the brake pad and slowly, gently pushing them back into the caliper. Be very gentle, as you don't want anything to, oh, there we go, it's a lot of space. Okay, very slowly, and this shouldn't be difficult. As you can see, both sides, you can very easily pull them out, and yeesh, that is worn. So that is basically what then, once that closes, that sends a signal to the front telling you to change your brake pads. So we've got one out, second one. Okay, so now that we have the brake pads out, on to removing the caliper so we can remove the disc and get that sorted. So there's actually two bolts on the rear of the caliper, which you can see right there, one here and one below it. I don't know if you can see in the video, but those are two 18mm bolts. So we'll just take a regular spanner, put it on there. Like so. Get yourself a rubber mallet because these are quite tough.
To practice. So that's nicely supported. Brake line isn't kinked. There's no sort of pressure on it.
So next up, to remove the disc, there's just one T30 Torx bit that we'll have to basically remove. Where is it?
Alright, make sure you don't lose that. And then,
so next up, after we have removed the Torx screw, basically after a long period of time, these tend to rust to the hub, which make it very difficult to remove.
So a bit of WD-40 never hurts.
Off to the machine shop to get them skimmed. And we have the discs back from the machine shop. So we got them skimmed yesterday, took around half an hour, and it cost maybe, was it $5 per piece, which isn't too bad. So now we gotta put them back, and it's basically just a reverse process of what I just showed you guys of removing.
Take our new brake pads, slide them in. One design. It's a good thing we pushed back the piston earlier, so these just sliding without any difficulty.
So for the passenger side, the only thing that we have to remember is that we need to reinstall this new sensor. And basically you can see there's a tab which basically indicates that that points inwards, and it just slides into the outer brake disc like that. Make sure it sits all the way to the bottom, and then we slide it in. Dropped, you have retightened all lug nuts. Very important to now, before you drive anywhere, is to pump the brakes. Start the car. And keep pumping the brakes until it's tight. Alright, so we got fresh Brembo brake pads in. We got the disc skimmed. Let's take a look. Nice and fresh, looking pretty smooth, no grooves. So I think the only thing left, by testing it and wearing them in, is doing a couple of pulls. Right, so now on our test drive, obviously the best way to test the car is to do some very gentle pulls to the speed limit. So come on down here. Let's very gently put it in Sports Plus. Give it a couple of downshifts. And very gently accelerate to the speed limit. And brakes. They seem to be working fine. See you next time. Alright guys, and I'd really appreciate if you hit that like button, comment below with any recommendations of videos that you might want to see in future, any questions that you might have in relation to sort of general car maintenance, or for example, if you're currently restoring a car and are having issues with it not starting, any issue, whatever it could be, just comment below. I've got plenty of years of experience. I've spent lots of money learning the ins and outs of cars, bikes, jet skis, you name it. So I'm just here to help and basically spread and hand on my knowledge of what I've learned over the past few years. So hit the like button, subscribe, let me know what sort of content you'd like to see, and I'd be sure to do my best to upload it.